start to see where the Browns and where the Browns can be put over the top. Because if they can be like Kansas City, right? Kansas City is such an explosive offense. Well, the Browns aren't that far apart from being Kansas City, right? They get to the red zone a similar amount of times. The fact is that Kansas City scores more touchdowns when they get into the red zone than the Cleveland Browns. That's the big difference between the Browns and the best offense in football is that Kansas City just scores touchdowns when they get to the red zone 76% of the time. The Browns, 60%. All of a sudden, now you have something that could bring you up to 70, maybe even up to Kansas City levels because of the problems that this offense creates for defenses. And the next thing you know, you're Kansas City level offense. One of the things that I've seen a lot of question and skepticism and confusion about when it comes to the Cleveland Browns is how much better can they be if the player that they're getting back in week 11 or week 12 is a quarterback, given that quarterback play hasn't necessarily been the problem for this team. It's been at certain spurts, at certain times, it has been a problem, but it hasn't been the main problem with the team. Main problem with the team has been defense. So there's a lot of question of, hey, how much better can this offense be? And I'm here to tell you a lot better. And I'll explain why I feel that way. First things first, and we're going to go on what's the main thing that having Deshaun Watson gives you a big upgrade over is this efficiency, right? The Browns are up there with the Chiefs, are up there with the Chargers when it comes to red zone attempts per game. So scoring attempts per game, where they kicking field goals or are they scoring touchdowns. I think they're first or second in red zone just appearances in the NFL, but they average 4 scoring attempts per game. It's pretty good. But if you flip to here in scoring touchdown only efficiency, the Browns are at about 61%. So for each scoring attempt, so they get 4 scoring attempts per game. 60% of those are going to be touchdowns. So on a good day, you get 21 points. On a bad day, you get 14 points from the Cleveland Browns, pretty much at minimum, with a hope to get to 17 or to 24. And you can see that's how the Browns pretty much make up most of their offense is with that, right? The 17 to 24. That's pretty much the range of how the Browns have scored. They've scored, I think, one game over 30 points this entire year. So how does Deshaun change that? Well, look, let's look at a team like Tennessee, because I know some people are going to look at a team like Tennessee, right, and say, oh, my God, they score 76% of the time they're in the red zone. That's good. The Browns should just run the ball more. That's how they could solve the problem, is running the ball more. Yes and no. Running the ball in the red zone is pretty effective when you can do it at a high level. I would argue the Browns haven't been able to do it at the highest of high levels, but they've been able to do it at a level to where you would question it. The issue with running the ball a lot is it becomes a lot more difficult for you as a team to get to the red zone, because if you look at Tennessee, yes, they score a lot when they get to the red zone, but that's because they have to, because they barely get there. They're one of the worst teams, tied for the worst teams in getting to the red zone. So in able to get into the red zone, you need somewhat of a sufficient passing attack. If you don't have that, you won't get to the red zone. It doesn't matter what your red zone scoring efficiency is, because yes, Tennessee is at 76%, but they're not really scoring as many points as the Cleveland Browns are, because, well, they stink when it comes to getting the ball down the field. Now, the Browns clearly don't have that problem already, right? And with Deshaun, I don't think that's going to be a problem that arises out of nowhere. But where a solution could be brought up is in your scoring efficiency, right? Because now you have options. The Browns are so one-dimensional when it comes to how they can score in when they're within 10 yards of the goal line. I'm sorry, right? But they're so limited in their options there that the stadium chants the play call. You know what I mean? Like, that's where the Browns are right now. when the stadium is chanting Chubb, 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 because they know that we have one real viable option in those situations. And the Browns do use it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think Chubb has the most touchdowns in the NFL. Clearly, they're using him in those spots. But when you're that one-dimensional, it makes it really hard within the 10-yard lines, because it's a lot easier to play defense when the field's condensed, because you're just worried about less space. Your safeties are naturally going to be closer to the line of scrimmage just because there's less space. Like, you're automatically going up against a stack box, whether it's designed or not, because the safeties are going to be close to the goal line, to the line of scrimmage. That's where Deshaun Watson comes into play, because now you're not one-dimensional. Now Amari Cooper becomes a much more viable option, because you as a team and as a team defending the Browns are a lot more worried about Deshaun Watson connecting with Amari Cooper, right? Because they have that great chemistry, because they can get a back shoulder throw. All these things are why you would be worried about that. Also, it doesn't just make you worried about the passing, right? You know, that's two dimensions. You become like four-dimensional now, because yes, you can throw the ball traditionally with Deshaun Watson. You can run the ball with Nick Chubb or Hunt. You can run the ball with Deshaun Watson, so that's a third dimension. You can RPO, that's a fourth dimension. You can tunnel screen, that's a fifth dimension. And you see how there now are a lot of options, to where defending the Browns right now in the red zone means, hey, let's just stack up, be physical, and hope we win, right? That's the plan against Chubb. Stack up, be physical, hope we win, because we know what they're going to do. Imagine how much harder that's going to be for a defense to do when they're not 100% sure that Nick Chubb's even getting the ball. And it's not because like Kevin's trying to be cute here and like throw to a lesser option. It's because the Browns have equally as valid options as Nick Chubb to go to. All of a sudden, things spread out, things open up, and the level of lengths you have to go to get some misdirection in the end zone to create space is less. You don't have to do as much. Imagine this, right? Imagine this. Imagine you're the defense. Nick Chubb comes out, Deshaun Watson in a pistol set, and hell, let's even make Kareem Hunt the fullback. Now, if you know what a pistol set looks like, you know, it's going to be the line of scrimmage. It's going to be a quarterback about 5 yards off the ball at most, if that, maybe just a couple yards off the ball, with Nick Chubb behind him, and then you'll have a fullback in between the guard and the tight end off the line of scrimmage, and that's probably going to be Kareem Hunt. So now you have that. You probably can have a tight end on the line of scrimmage on the other side, and you could probably run this out of 12. Well, no, it'll be 22. So you'll be running this out of 22 or 13 if they count the fullback as the tight end. So whatever personnel grouping that you feel comfortable putting this in, 22 or 13, it's going to be something like that. You will have Amari Cooper spread out wide, right? So you can have that corner isolated away from where this is going to be. And then you can run a play where it looks like Kareem Hunt's going to pull, right? He's pulling to get to that other side, so it's a fake to the left. You can have Nick Chubb fake to the left or fake a handoff to the left. And then you can have Deshaun Watson sprint right, either get it to Amari Cooper, run it himself, or have a tight end option there. Or you can make this now a tunnel screen to Kareem Hunt. You see the ridiculous amount of options there. You could just run the ball with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt if you wanted to. You could do a little a shuttle pass to Kareem Hunt underneath when he goes and pulls. You can also do a tunnel screen like that. One basic play design that I came up with in this chair, which is not, I didn't come up with it. It's just a common play design. All of a sudden creates so many problems for defense. And you can start to see where the Browns can be put over the top, because if they can be like Kansas City, right? Kansas City is such an explosive offense. Well, the Browns aren't that far apart from being Kansas City, right? They get to the red zone a similar amount of times. The fact is that Kansas City scores more touchdowns. when they get into the red zone of the Cleveland Browns. That's the big difference between the Browns and the best offense in football is that Kansas City just scores touchdowns when they get to the red zone 76% of the time. The Browns, 60%. All of a sudden, now you have something that could bring you up to 70, maybe even up to Kansas City levels because of the problems that this offense creates for defenses. And the next thing you know, you're Kansas City level offense with a better run game, mind you. So you're going to be able to sustain these drives for longer times. You're going to be able to play the keep away game with Kansas City while being more efficient in how often you can get to the red zone, because that's one of the things that a good passing attack with a good running game gives you is efficiency in getting to the red zone. And then the next thing you know, you're one of the best offenses in the NFL, if not the best offense in the NFL. Just that one player makes that big of a difference because he adds like 3 or 4 different dimensions to the game. You can't run that concept that I mentioned with Jacoby Brissett because Jacoby Brissett's not going to give you gravity. If Jacoby Brissett sprints right, they'll let him sprint right, please. You know what I mean? Like they'll have one guy there to handle that. They feel like they're fine there. If Deshaun Watson sprints right, there's going to be 2 or 3 people at the very least that follow right with him, that bring that gravity that way. So now you split that field into a half, and then you have the other half already in motion that if he plants his foot, throws across to a tunnel screen, to somebody just sitting there, there's going to be more space. You can't really do pistol with Jacoby Brissett because he's not a threat to run the ball out of a like a true handoff situation, right? Like you're not going to be worried about him running QB draw. He's just not that fast. Gravity is what this gives you. Even Josh Dobbs, who can run, he doesn't command that gravity that Deshaun Watson does, right? It's a similar conversation with Miles, where a lot of what Miles does is important because of the gravity. Right. Like that's why I say Myles Garrett's the most impactful player on the defense before the game even starts, because everybody's game plan is about what you're going to do about Myles Garrett. Same thing's going to be for Deshaun Watson. He's going to be the most impactful player on the offense before he throws a ball. And it doesn't even matter if he's rusty or not, because teams are going to defend him as if he's Deshaun Watson. He's going to have that gravity. Unless he comes out and plays abysmal football, he's going to have that gravity. And that's what's important, right? That gravity frees up Nick Chubb to run against lighter boxes. That gravity frees up, makes it easier to design plays to free up David Njoku, to free up Amari Cooper. And those are guys who don't really need to be freed up in the first place, right? But it gives you those options that if you need something, you can get something, right? That is where this is important. That is where it is worth the $40 million, right? That's why there's a difference. Because yes, Jacoby Brissett up there, you're one-dimensional, maybe 1.5 dimensional, right? Like Jacoby can make a couple throws in the red zone. So you're 1.5 dimensional with Jacoby Brissett playing the best that he possibly can, right? Like you're getting the most out of a quarterback in this situation I think you can in Cleveland right now. And you're still 1.5 dimensional. Deshaun Watson steps in there, you're 5 dimensional. Because of that gravity that he gives you, the respect that defenses are going to give you because of that. And if defenses dare not to respect it, I don't care how rusty Deshaun is, he can still run. You know what I mean? Like running, it ain't going to take much to get the rust off of running. We're really worried about the rust when it comes to him throwing the ball. But the rust, like on running, like, yeah, if you're not going to respect his gravity going right, sprinting right on a play, please let him get one-on-one with the DB and win within the 10 and score a touchdown like that. You know what I mean? There are so many options of how the Browns can spread you, split you, and twist you within the red zone now, that it's going to be a nightmare for teams to play. Where now when the Browns play against these defenses, they're anticipating run. You can't afford to anticipate run with the team that has Deshaun Watson at quarterback. And that's going to be the big difference. That's why things change. Now, that's one of the things that's going to be a change. There's a lot of other things that are going to be a change when you have a legitimate quarterback that we're just going to have to see, right? I can't explain all of this to everybody, but you'll see it when it happens, right? And I'm confident that we're probably going to see it. I think Deshaun's going to be pretty good when he comes back, or at least the hope is that he's going to be pretty good. But that's my thoughts on this. You know, it's something that popped up on my timeline that I want to further explain here. But y'all have a great day. Have a good night.